Welcome to Keefer's Corner week. I guess I don't even know what this is. The level 2 going into level 3 edition. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, joined by Coach Dan Keefer. Coach, how are we doing tonight?
Doing very, very well.
After a win against the St. Croix Central Panthers, which you sat right in that spot a week ago and said you'd much rather have this upcoming one than the regular season one.
Right.
And you got it.
We did.
So let's just start at the top.
Mm-hmm.
A little unsure if Cal would go, and then Cal jogs out second. He goes, and he really had a great game. But
yeah,
start with that whole preparing your team and having Cal available.
Yeah, I think part of it was getting the kids to believe that it was something that we could do. And part of that was looking at what we've done all year, and also looking at other years. We had talked about 2008 and 2010 having similar situations. Ironically, week 8 losing, coming back and playing the same opponent in level 2. So there had been a track record, and then trying to kind of persuade the kids. It's a honest assessment of what you have. We have a hardworking group of people who embrace the process, and they're talented, and those are things that you got to have. Cal, I could not have imagined that he would have been able to play at the level that he played at. I didn't see the kid limp. I really didn't. I don't think if you watched that game, that was the first time you would notice any different from him playing, before the injury. So we certainly did not expect him to be able to run like that. The first play of the game, we did call it was a run. It was a designed quarterback run, and we had a little wrinkle on it. But just when I watched him run, I was like, holy moly. He looked good, and he truck sticked the kid at the end of it. Like that's kind of his signature.
Right.
But that was, I thought, a pretty good indicator where he was at. But we really didn't know, because obviously we were very careful with him, and really weren't sure, if he was going to be what he was going to be able to do.
So even before kickoff, Central wins the toss. They like to take the ball, which if I'm St. Croix Central, I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah.
They played really well the week before, or against us prior. Their idea is, we're going to take the ball, we're going to go down, we're going to take the lead. Only that, I think they had one first down, drives over, we get it, we go right down the field. Score touchdown number 1, and then I think 8 seconds later, we score a touchdown. They'd run one play, they try to run a counter, ball's on the ground, Ryan Wiedendahl picks up.
Yeah, it was great.
At that point, it's 14-0, and you're feeling, how you feeling?
It was awesome. That's the dream start. That's what you're hoping for. And then, I think our third touchdown, the throw to Colton Hush.
Beautiful throw.
That was just so well done. And it was, it was a windy night, and that was just a heck of a throw.
So 21-0, you're feeling even better.
Feeling a lot better, yeah.
And then late in the first quarter and most of the second quarter happens. Touchdown Central, stop at the 1 when they're going into tie. Safety to make it 21-16. And then we free kick to them. They go right down and score. They go for 2 to try to extend it to a 3-point lead. Unsuccessful.
Right.
22-21. And we're closing in on halftime. And at that point, how do you feel?
Hey, you knew it was going to be a 4-quarter game. Right. You know that they were good. I thought our response to that was spectacular. We had a pass play called, and Graydon Monacan, who, on a lot of teams, Graydon's a number 1 receiver. On our team, he's kind of been a 2. But he is a threat to go all the way. And he ran a nice route, and Cal puts it right there, and he just ran away from them. And that was a huge, huge play, because we recaptured some momentum, before the end of the half, and then kind of thought we might get another shot, because I think Hush had an interception, and I think we got called for a hold.
Yep.
Going back, and I don't think it's good form to complain about officials. The holding, the safety in the end zone on Lucas DeShane, I, for the life of me, cannot see what was holding regarding that play at all. I have no idea what the official thought he saw. But, whatever, it's frustrating. I mean, in big games like that stuff that's huge.
Yeah, you're putting points on the board for the opposing team. There's not a lot of calls that do that.
Right.
I think, having read the paper and what Coach Tackman had to say, he wasn't real thrilled about officiating either. He said the false start calls, there weren't false starts. We got called for some false starts. They got called for some false starts. Nick and I were kind of unsure in the booth who the false start calls were on.
Mm-hmm.
When you rewatched the film, did you see what the officials were seeing on those other plays?
I think there has been a thing, with Central throughout there. When they get up, they literally they snap it very quickly. I mean, their cadence is short. They get up to the line when they're set. When they get set, they go.
Right.
And I believe some of those you're not set for a full second, so you didn't necessarily have a guy that.
But is that properly assessed if the ball's being blown dead? Because that would be an illegal motion, illegal procedure.
Yeah, like a false start to kill it.
Right.
Yeah, if they killed it, it's a false start. I wasn't looking like with a fine tooth comb on who did that. You do that more with your own.
But I mean, as far as questioning calls go,
I'm sure
it's fair to say there were some both ways.
I'm sure there were
only one that put automatic points on the board.
Right.
So let's fast forward here. We score. They go deep. So if you remember last year at Central, we ended up turning it over late. They scored right before half.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like roles might kind of reverse.
Mm-hmm.
They turn it over late. Like you mentioned, we got called for a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Now talk me through the end of the last 30 seconds, because we end up calling a timeout with 18 seconds left on fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
Why 18 and why not let more time run off? Central was not going to call a timeout.
Yeah. Well, I think the thought was we could potentially complete a pass with 18 seconds and have another shot. Like you cut the distance in half.
Okay.
And like this isn't going to be a Hail Mary. This is going to be let's see what we can do, and maybe we'd have time to run another play when we get the first down. That was my thinking.
And in my mind, I'm having visions of the year before where it's like they're going to get the ball back if we don't convert this. And what did they do? Took a knee.
Yeah.
Which was like, if you hand it off, you got a shot. Like that to me was one that if I was sitting in their stands wearing blue, I wouldn't have been real thrilled with that decision, because it's like you're down and you're giving the ball back, and you're just going to go into halftime. Like that to me was questionable. But we go into half. Up 27-22, and we get the ball.
Yeah.
And we make pretty quick work of that.
It was a good drive. It was a big drive.
And now it's
extend the lead a little bit.
33-22, and you elect to go for 2. Why the 2, and why not just take the point?
Well, I figured I would rather. I felt good about making it. We obviously didn't. But that was my thinking, like, hey, if we can get 2 is obviously better than 1.
Right. Because that would have been 13.
Right.
In my mind, 11 plus 1 is 12.
Right.
Now that's 8 plus 3 is not going to cover it. Right.
Yeah. I also felt like they have a good kicking game.
Correct. They absolutely do.
They're going to make, their extra points.
Right.
So I thought it'd be better to be up 13-12.
Okay, that's fair. They end up, I believe we scored, they scored, so it's 39-27. And then we had the ball. And I don't know if this was the drive, maybe it was the drive prior, where we run towards our perimeter.
I think 39-22.
Did we go up 39-22?
I think so.
And then they scored to make it 39-29.
I think so.
Was it on that touchdown drive where we run something towards our side? I think it was a third down. Colton and Colin Fritz absolutely demolishes a kid.
Yeah, heading towards their school.
Yeah.
That was really quite an impressive block. Fritz just completely, I mean, he very physically just attacked and planted the central defender. And that was a big play, you know. And when you have physical plays like that, and it happened to be pretty close proximity to our sideline, that just, it gives even more energy and more juice to the group. And that was a very physical play. It was a great play.
When I was with the 7th graders, I talked about, you know, you want to go out there and you want to ruin these guys' Tuesday night or Thursday night. And on that play as it's happening, I'm like, Colin just destroyed that kid's Friday night. And that's how it felt. The kid had no chance. And it was a good, clean, there was nothing questionable about it. He just destroyed his night, and that was fun. We ended up getting the ball back. We're up, but having seen what happened late in the first and in the second,
right?
No lead felt real safe. And then Cal makes that nice long-ish 25, I think, touchdown run.
Yeah.
And then it kind of felt like this really just happened.
Yeah, you know, that was a play that actually Zach Paul had, you know, encouraged and designed. You know, it was and it worked perfectly, just like we kind of hoped it would. So that was great, you know. And then, you know, also just a couple other things. I thought we really played good defense in the second half.
Oh, absolutely.
And I felt like they didn't really ever have a good bead on what we were doing. We did some different things. We had a couple different fronts, and we did some movements, and you know, I thought that really made a huge difference for us. I think, you know, in retrospect, looking at week 8, I thought we were good enough up front, and they aren't going to be able to really do their thing. Well, obviously that was not accurate or correct,
right?
Because they moved us plenty, and we had to, you know, the kids really, I thought, did a great job. I mean, those guys, they wanted it bad, and they got it done.
And when we were when we were down in week 8, that plays into their hands because they're just going to grind the clock, run the ball, throw it when they want to, not when they need to, right? And they had some big throwing plays late in the first half. On Friday night, they needed to throw the ball, and that didn't. I mean, they were able to have
That's a
success
good point.
on
The
the
want
ground,
versus need for them is a big deal.
and they needed to throw it, and they were throwing it over. I mean, there was times that Sullivan looked to separate, and when you don't pass a lot and you have to make a pass, that's just not great for them. Because Nussbaum, I think, did he lead them in rushing this time? They were able to.
He absolutely did.
To move the ball on the ground, but when they needed to throw, which you have to do when you're behind, unless you're the Jets or the Giants, that it seemed to work out really poorly for them.
Yeah.
And work out well for us.
Yeah. I mean, they're a great running team. Yep. And, you know, they had tremendous success. You know, when you're running it down people's throats and you want to, you know, all of a sudden play action and get it, you know, that's pretty darn effective formula. It is a totally different thing if your opponent thinks you're going to throw. You know, it's hard to do.
And it seemed as though your hope was that the dive wasn't going to be what they were given, that they were going to have to run quarterback to pitch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. We would much rather have the quarterback run it, and we would prefer the quarterback to have to even pitch.
Right.
I mean, that's
more chance for bad things to happen.
Right. Exactly.
So, offensive player of the game, is it? Am I going out on a pretty long limb if I say it was Cal?
It was Cal, and I don't think there was anyone else even nominated because people that watched the game. I believe he had 17 straight completions to end the game. Is that accurate?
That sounds accurate. Yeah, it was crazy. 23 for 29, perfect passer rating.
He just played a heck of a game. He made great decisions. He threw the ball. He's poised. I thought our O-line gave him a really nice pocket. Now, granted, we tried to get rid of the ball quickly.
Right.
We weren't, you know, gonna.
Were the late. Really, for me, bubble stuff. All the bubble. It's a super high percentage pass.
For us, it is.
It's essentially a long handoff where you have less defenders. I mean, it's a really nice play. Are those coming in from the sideline, or are those things where Cal gets to choose?
We do both. I mean, some of them there's a run and a pass. Some of them it's a pass. You know, I can't. You know, I couldn't off the top of my head tell you how. I mean, there was a mix. Sometimes, it just depends on how they align, right. how things look, and he has, without getting into a big thing, numbers, space, and leverage is what he bases decisions on.
Because I felt like the box was getting lighter and lighter and lighter, and we're just like, you know what, we're going to keep doing it because you can't stop it. Even if you have 5 guys in the box, I think it was usually 6, but it's like even if you put 6 in the box, we're still going to get to the perimeter.
There's 6 in the box are still pretty dang good.
Yeah. And that seemed to work.
Yeah.
So defensive side of the ball, like you mentioned, defense played really well in the second half.
Yeah.
I think just that one second half touchdown.
Yeah, and really like looking at the film, like if we, when we did the things that we were supposed to do, we were really successful.
Right.
When we didn't, we weren't.
That's when the big holes happen.
That's it's just it's discipline and but there's a lot to like in that second half. That's for sure. The D player of the game was Noah Sarar, who I thought played very, very well. We moved him, put him at nose guard, thinking that he would have fewer double teams, and him being our best D lineman would have a much more favorable matchup. If you put 2 really good guys double teaming you, that really limits you.
Right.
And that's not to say that, Dylan Vienendahl did a terrific job against the double teams, and he didn't get moved. He split double teams. He made tackles. He was fantastic, and he's a heck of a player. And I thought Ben Peavy really, really played well too. Lucas Deshane and Colin Fritz played well too. And there was a lot of stuff to really like.
Absolutely. Special teams. So we converted, I believe, 4 or 5 of our attempted extra points. The other one, was it a bad snap or was it a
he just kicked it low, it looked like to me. Low. I think he just missed it, yeah.
Turned the ball over on a kick return. Thought we had pretty good coverage. How do you rank the special teams? I
thought our kickoff coverage was really good. Again, I thought Gus had a nice day kicking off. We kicked deep every single time.
Yep, I love that.
And I don't think they ever started outside of their 30. In fact, I know sometimes they were pinned down pretty deep, that's a big deal. It's just simple math. The longer they have to go, the less chance there is they're going to actually score. Every yard matters. And I thought our kids really we've stepped up. There was a stretch there, maybe not so much right in the beginning of the year, but the middle third for sure, we had some spotty coverage, to put it mildly. It was just not good. But we've tightened it up. It seems like a couple reteaching and some personnel changes, and I don't know, they got some newfound confidence maybe, and so that's good. So I thought the special teams were good. Gus maybe had one punt that he would like to have back, but he had a couple others that were really good. And he's been huge for us this year. He really has. I feel very, very good about our special teams. Very confident in Gus that he's gonna make something big before this thing's done.
Absolutely. Player of the game, special teams?
Gus.
It was Gus.
Yep.
Now moving ahead, so as the fun thing of coaching is you get to celebrate that victory for about 10 minutes before you turn the page, and you look at the Somerset Spartans, who we saw at Kingfield earlier this year, who played us extremely tough.
They did.
And I remember in that game suggesting that we would see this team again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wouldn't have guessed that it would be level 3 after they lose a couple games back into the playoffs at 3 and 4. But they've seemed to figure things out offensively a little bit. Use maybe one of the best comebacks, being down 10 with less than a minute left, getting a score, getting an onside kick, and then getting a walk-off win.
That was amazing.
So as a fan of the Middle Border Conference, great for them. As a fan of not driving multiple hours,
that's huge.
Awesome for us.
Huge, yeah.
But as we faced yesterday or last week and said, it's tough to beat a team a second time.
It is.
We now are in the other role, where we have to figure out how to beat Somerset for a second time.
That's very true. And our kids have lived that lesson last week. The result of an earlier game has zero impact on the upcoming game. So I would hope that they have learned that for themselves. We look at Somerset. We scrimmaged them at Rice Lake, and they were very good there. We walked away from the scrimmage saying Somerset was very legit. And then they played us one of the toughest games we had all year. It was I think it was 26-20 was the final score.
And they had the ball at the end.
Yeah, they did. And they did score one late, but then they had another shot, and so yeah, they're definitely a good team. There's no doubt about that. They're going to bring some very talented kids. Kamen Gebheim, number 16, is I mean, for my money, probably the best defensive player in the conference.
Yeah, he didn't win defensive conference player of the year, but I think that he's
a fantastic kid.
Probably would have been runner-up if that was a thing.
Yeah, he was something, and he's a really good downhill runner.
Yep.
And then their quarterback, Kane Donnelly Jr., is playing really good ball. He is a big kid. He's mobile. He can sling it. So he can hurt you with his feet. He can hurt you through the air.
Right. They
have a very, very tall and talented athlete in Lesia, number 19, their receiver. He's 6'5", and he gets it going. He's fast.
Right.
And we see a lot of good. They have a lot of good players on their defense. Their outside linebackers are good. Their inside backers are good. They got some good kids up front. So yeah, there's no doubt it's going to be. You don't get to level 3 unless you're good.
Right.
I mean, that's just what it is. You have to have a good team. Somerset's they've had a couple head scratchers this year, where you're like, how the heck did they lose that one?
Right.
But you have injuries, you have things that happen, and our league is good.
Right.
The Middle Border Conference in this year's playoffs has beaten every time they played someone that was a non-Middle Border opponent. We've won.
Right.
Rice Lake hasn't lost.
Somerset hasn't lost.
Right.
We've beat the other two teams that have.
Correct. Exactly. So I mean, it's a good showing for the conference, and it's not surprising.
Right.
You think you're going to see? Well, who knows? I shouldn't speak because I haven't looked at like all the film of the people at Rice Lake are playing, but that's a pretty good outfit.
Right.
So obviously, Middle Border is going to have somebody representing level 4, and we'd like it to be us.
Right. Potentially two teams in level 4.
Absolutely.
Right. So a little walk down memory lane here. In 2008, we beat Altoona in level 1 at home, but as the 3 seed, we go to Somerset, and we beat them.
Yep.
After they beat us in the regular season. Back then, though, the level 3 host wasn't determined by seed; it was determined by the team that hasn't hosted as much.
Correct.
So we got to host a level 3 game against Bloomer.
Yeah.
And it was snowy. It was cold. It was a fun win.
It was. It was a good win.
And then in 2010, I think we played Spooner in level 1.
Mm-hmm. Windy.
Yeah, that was that.
That was a crazy win. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that game was nuts.
It was unbelievable.
I think we running clocked them so we didn't have to sit in the win forever.
Yeah.
Went to Somerset.
Yep.
Won again. And then as the number 3 seed, who had only hosted 1 game, we get to welcome number 1 Northwestern in. Another cold day.
It was cold.
Another Saturday game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We beat them 14-0. And now we're going to go level 3 home game again.
Yeah.
Things have changed. We get it because we're the higher seed.
Right.
If the rules were still the same, we'd be going to Somerset, which thank God we're not.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'd have to broadcast from the stands, and I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get a home game on a Friday night. It's going to be cold.
It's going to be fine.
Well, maybe not cold like then, but it's going to be colder than it was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we get to do it against Somerset. So just kind of a fun, 2008.
A lot of parallels.
2010.
Absolutely.
And now 13 years later, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And all, an upset win on the road, or, depending on how you want to qualify it, going on the road to a team that we've already got beaten by.
Mhm.
and then coming back home for level 3. And as far as I can remember, since the leveling has been a thing, those are the 3 trips we've made to level 3. And then, whatever awaits after Friday night gets decided after Friday night.
That's right.
Anything else stick out from the Friday night win? I mean, that's one that kids are going to remember forever. It's Central, right? I mean, that makes it.
Oh yeah, I'm so just happy for the kids. Those kids wanted it bad. They really did. I mean, you could tell the way we practiced. It meant a lot to them, and they played like it. I mean, they played their hearts out, and that's what you got to do. I mean, that's one of the. I mean, football is not easy. It is a hard sport. And you got to work your butt off to get there. And it's not just, we're working this week. What a lot of people don't understand is these kids work. They worked for years to try to get to this point.
Right.
With strength training and speed training and agility and doing things of that nature. And it's hard. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody has the motivation, the drive to get up and lift weights and do those things and to excel in other sports and continue to lift weights as you're excelling in your whatever sports you choose. And so I'm super proud of those kids because it means something to them, and they've put in the work, and now they're hopefully they get to realize their dream, which the dream doesn't end this Saturday for any of them. I'm sure, we want to keep that thing going. So It's exciting.
So after the high of Friday night, you didn't get to watch the Badgers on Saturday and the Packers on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then the whole time you're just like, you know what? Hey, at least we won on Friday.
You know what? That was a lot easier to deal with because of our Friday thing. But the Badgers against Ohio State, I thought they played reasonably well. I mean, you hate to say moral victories, but for me, that was a bit of a moral victory because they didn't get killed. They had a chance in the fourth quarter, albeit a slim chance, but they were down 7 and they had the ball in the fourth quarter. If you can find a way, and they're not healthy. I mean, I don't care who you are. You take your starting quarterback out, you take your top 2 running backs out.
Right.
They don't have their best center. DK got hurt. I mean, they're banged up.
Right.
I would be thrilled with the Badgers, and I thought defensively they did a pretty good job. I mean, offensively it wasn't great again, but defensively they took it away from Ohio State 3 times. The defense probably played well enough to win.
Right.
And it made it seem to me like the gap there. I believe there is a gap, but I don't think that gap was quite as big as I expected it maybe would be. So I actually took that as a bit of a positive. The Packers, I don't think I can take much positive out of that one.
Was it positive that you turned it off early and got back to watching film?
Well, it did make it a little easier for me to this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just weird because as a Packer fan, you've had such high expectations, literally expecting them to win every game or feeling very confident that they have a great chance to win every game.
Right.
And, with what they're doing offensively right now, it's like, geez, looks like we've missed on quite a few, not super optimistic about Christian Watson. To me, he just doesn't look like he's physical enough to be he's fast and whatnot, but he's hurt a lot and doesn't, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not giving up on anybody, but you see what you see, and it's the O-line's got a long way to go, and defensively, I don't even want to get going.
So is it fair to say that the Hall of Fame quarterback run is going to stop at 2?
Well, I think it's still a little bit too early. I think the jury's out on Jordan Love. I don't blame most of the Packers' woes on Jordan Love. I think he could be more accurate, but I think there's some things there that are very positive. Their O-line is not playing at a level even remotely close to what
they're not healthy either, right?
They're banged. Well, they lost Bakhtiari, and then they had Rasheed Walker in there, and they went to Josh Neiman, which seemed to make sense, but they don't have any playmakers, man. They don't They don't catch the ball. I think they had 6 drops. There's no big plays on defense. I don't know if Joe Barry really. I don't know. I don't know. I can't look and say, what the heck are they doing? I don't even know what they're doing. Not like I know what everybody's doing, but at least like run, like the gaps in the run game should be fairly apparent.
Right.
You can't count on that.
So it was a really good thing that Friday night went well because Saturday.
Oh yeah, hide the sharp objects.
All right. Well, with that, we'll come back and we'll do this again next week. Hopefully, it's not the last episode.
That's right.
And we will do a much better job on Friday night. I've tested all my equipment. Everything seems to be good. Bummer on Friday that it wasn't great. It's a bummer for me to have to say turn on the central feed. But I'm glad they did it so people could watch it. And I could hear the disgust and the sadness. And so I'm hoping that was some sort of not necessarily consolation prize. We won, but also a little, whipped cream on top that you got to hear the central announcers just feel really bad.
One thing I will mention is that I don't know the gentleman's name, but the guy that announces the game.
Yep.
Like in the pregame, like, hey, we don't usually do it, but we introduced our offense.
Right.
And when I said Cal Smith, he said, really? So that worked out pretty good. And one last thing I would definitely want to say, because we did play good defense. I thought Shane Nigber did a great job at keeping them. Like he called a great game because they never really had a beat, and that's not easy to do. And I really thought he had a nice game.
And when everybody has a nice game, you win.
That's right.
So we'll try to get one more of those.
At least
one more on Friday, and then we'll move on from there.
There you go.
All right. That's Coach Keefer. I'm Jeremy Nygaard. This was Keefer's Corner. We'll see you at King Field on Friday night. So long.